I'm Jainschigg. I run CNB Metaverse, which is the virtual events arm of CNB Technology. We're a publisher of magazines, websites, and events on a global basis. Information Week, Black Hat, April Interrupt are among our properties. And we do something in Second Life called Life Towards Summit, quarterly event for Metaverse developers. Our experience, the experience that I bring to this table vis-a-vis Metaverse is primarily on the public side, doing relatively large scale virtual events. The way we think, which is similar to preparatory conversations. There are certain differences between internet virtual worlds and public virtual worlds. Their foci seem to be different, quite distinct from one another at first when one considers them. Obviously, one chooses to deal with behind the firewall or outside the firewall, or the intermediate state, some hypothetically secure third-party platform that is neither behind the firewall per se, it's arguably secure in order to perform an e-commerce or collaborative application, but distinctly different from a fully open, public, shared virtual space like Second Life. There seems to be this focus on the nature of the platform, the UI and its capabilities that take place with the internet and standalone platforms. Mostly we are, at this point in the evolution of virtual reality technology, jumping on these platforms and becoming familiar with them in order to support capabilities that the public platforms either don't have or that are inconvenient to support, even though we can see perhaps theoretically how they might be supported. There's the ever-present question, particularly among technology providers, people in financial services, healthcare, and other places where the protection of secrecy and the value of intelligence is compulsory, but no less elsewhere in the industry to protect intellectual property security and privacy rights, national information and other information of strategic value. It's presumed that rendering concrete policy for inside the firewall virtual worlds and outside the firewall public spaces, should be different. That you can experiment freely with the inside the firewall virtual worlds, but that limits and regulation and management must be active in public spaces. There's the presumption that inside the firewall virtual worlds can be more informal than virtual worlds where one's actions are constantly on view. And it's presumed that evangelists and early adopters are more important on the inside than on the outside. And it's more a question of the platform versus what you mentioned, going to a foreign country. You're presumed, I guess, that you're going to be looking to other ideas, if not other ideas, rehearsal installations. So these are people who might not all literally in an inside world, as opposed to people from far-flung regions or total strangers. And the dialogue differences, this dialogue and organization, which tends to emerge from experiments with standalone virtual worlds, that becomes by contrast with regard to public virtual worlds, this dialogue about brand safety and corporate imperialism and questions like that. But it occurred to me, and I'm going to try to sell you on this, that in the end, after the third day of experimentation, after the point where the internet virtual world is a setup and can be configured and get to work reliably project by two passionate engineers, and it becomes something that has in the least bit opened up to the group within the company, that the differences between these things largely go away. These are just policy. There will always be technical differences. The platforms are different, and they're slightly different for sometimes back-end purposes. But then what we are talking about is an ecology of people, a growing and ramifying group of people who will inevitably be more or less diverse, probably more sooner than not, and who bring with them all the baggage of the outside world and all the tendencies of human beings in any social environment, focused with a particular lens that affects the different behavior in virtual environments. Ultimately, we come to these realizations with regard to most of the systems of communication that we use. about the media, not public law.